We are previewing Texas at Ohio State week 1 with an absolute monster game here. We're going to be talking best bets for this thing. We're going to talk Arch Manning and the Heisman odds, and I'll tell you how you can get a 50% profit boost for this game without having to move a muscle. Welcome to OddsShark. I am Ninja, joined by Josie Costigan, and let's start there, Josie, with Arch Manning. He's talking about every team on the Texas schedule having a red dot on them. He seems motivated. Favorite to win the Heisman at plus 700 over at FanDuel. But my question is this. If we wanted to bet Arch Manning to win the Heisman, should we do it ASAP? Because if he beats Ohio State, that is already the sort of statement win that could really impact his odds.
Yeah, he is just so cool. But Arch Manning's probably just like the most anticipated storyline in college football right now. You know, he's stepping into that starting role at Texas with a ton of hype. But what I like about him the most is that he doesn't really seem to be buying into it. He's really calm, really mature for his age. And that shows up in both his press conferences and on the field. Just kind of gets the job done. I think sitting behind Quinn Ewers for the last 2 years has kind of made him only more of a threat. A lot of five-star quarterbacks would have already been in the portal by now, but I think Manning really wanted to value and work on his development for his college career. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm rushing to buy his futures right now. I think he's got the talent. There's no doubt about that, but we're talking about a sophomore in his first year as a starter, so I think regardless, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve, even if he has Manning on the back of his jersey. If Texas has the season people think they can have, he'll be in the conversation for sure, but I know it's tough for a wait and see with this week 1 matchup, but, you know, it's also been 21 years since a preseason favorite has won the Heisman. So just be careful. I think, you know, he's still young. I don't see him opting for the draft this year. I see him maybe, you know, spending another year in college. So, yeah, maybe don't rush into it and buy into all that hype just yet.
Good point about the preseason faves to win the Heisman, and tough test in week 1. Schedule gets soft before Florida. Let me ask you this then. Does Texas, in your opinion, have any question marks, or better yet, questions that you need answered in this game on Saturday?
Yeah, I've been on the Texas wagon for I feel like 3 years now, as you guys know, but there's definitely a lot of question marks with Texas. They've lost a lot of firepower from last year's SEC championship run, 3 of their top receivers and 2 top running backs in the NFL now. So this offense isn't really going to look the same, but, you know, with Steve Sarkisian, I don't think the concern is really there. Texas can score points. It's more about just who's going to step in to carry the load. 2 names that stand out for me are DeAndre Moore Jr. and Ryan Wingo. Moore kind of already showed that he's a reliable option. Last year, he finished with close to 500 yards and 7 touchdowns, which was the second most of the receiving corps. Wingo's got really good speed. He averaged over 16 yards as per catch as a true freshman. And if we remember, go back to his highlight reel, there was that 75-yard touchdown with a throw from Arch Manning. So there's already established connections with this young group. That's really good. Normally, again, all the youth would kind of hesitate me. You know, you want a team that has experience, but these guys kind of still had a role in last year's exciting campaign. And it's, you know, the coaching that really instills confidence for this football program. So I think, you know, we'll see some mistakes every now and then. There's still a bit of young guys, but again, I trust Steve Sarkisian with this group.
So same sort of question about the Buckeyes then. Obviously, new quarterback Julian Sayin, 20-1 in Heisman futures. A lot of turnover with this group, though. What are your thoughts about the Ohio State Buckeyes here?
Yeah, unlike Arch Manning, Ohio State's just going fresh off the board with Julian Sayin. He's basically brand new, just 12 snaps in his college career. And on top of that, the Buckeyes are also without some serious weapons. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, there's so many players that they have to replace. And it's kind of funny because this is a defending champion that we're talking about. And all that roster overturn almost makes people forget that. There's been a couple times even this offseason where I have to remind myself that oh yeah, Ohio State are trying to defend a title. But, you know, from everything we've heard, that quarterback battle from the Buckeyes was a grind, and now Sayin steps in with a crazy amount of pressure. Again, defending a national title, carrying a 2-decade-long week 1 winning streak, and doing it in front of 100,000 people at the Shoe. That's about as tough as an opening assignment as you could draw. So, again, I expect to see a lot of mistakes from him, and he might succumb to that pressure in week 1.
Yeah, and Ryan Day even said, just go out and win the football game. And you have a pick actually for Julian Sayin as well, right?
Yeah, I'm going under his passing yards. I have it at FanDuel for 231 and a half passing yards. I think it's just a brutal matchup for a first-time starter. And, Texas does bring back most of a defense that held opponents under 16 points a game last year. And Sarkisian's group, really, he's not going to give you much. Unlike Manning, who we've seen step up in the spotlight, Sayin's just a bit too of an unknown for me. So I'm just going under.
So I love the underpick. I love a week one underplay. But let me ask you this. Does the fact that Ohio State still features Jeremiah Smith, who you can argue is one of the best players in the country, does that scare you a little bit on this underplay?
Oh, of course. I think this is probably the best receiver in the country right now. But keep in mind, Texas stopped Smith in the CFP semifinal last year, gave him one reception, a lousy 3 yards. So I think they know he's our threat, and he's the one we got to look out for. And I think Ohio State knows, as you said with Ryan Day's quote, just go out and win. They kind of probably just really want to keep this game simple, clean, quick throws, maybe lean on Jeremiah Smith, but, just maybe minimize those turnovers. So I think we see the Buckeyes keep the training wheels on week one a little bit rather than testing Sayin and this offense against one of the toughest defenses in the country. So I'm not expecting, a really, full firepower game. I think it's just, stick to what you know and keep it clean, simple.
Yeah, Day even said, if you've got to throw the ball away, throw the ball away. So that'll be an interesting subplot here in this game against Texas. And I'll get Josie's pick in a minute. But if you at home are picking a side here, there's huge value. If you are using FanDuel for the game, they are offering a 50% profit boost on Texas Ohio State with their big match on campus promo. So don't leave that opportunity on the table. If you don't have FanDuel, no problem. I will drop a link in the description below. And before I get a pick here, Josie, I need to ask you about the spread, because I personally feel like I'm missing something. Like, two good football teams, obviously, but I feel like Texas can win this thing by a couple of possessions here. Yet here we are midweek. FanDuel has Texas as a 2.5 point dog. So what am I missing here, Josie?
I know it's kind of making me overthink too when I first saw it, but it's kind of wild when you look at it, because Texas comes in as the preseason national championship favorite. Arch Manning's the early Heisman frontrunner. He has been all preseason, and yet they're underdogs. And I think it's the first time in over 40 years that a number one ranked team has opened the season as underdogs. But I think that just shows what a huge anticipated matchup this is, that maybe even sportsbooks aren't even totally sure what to do with it. Texas and Ohio State have split their last 4 matchups 2-2, neither able to string together a streak. Again, add in the new quarterbacks, 2 highly respected coaches, a lot of roster overturn. It's kind of an unpredictable scene. I think, sure, Ohio State gets that home field advantage. Ohio Stadium is a loud, tough place to play. But the last time they played at home in this kind of spotlight, they lost to Michigan and only put up 10 points. So, yeah, I think it's really low. But, hey, it's a really good underdog spot. And you just mentioned that FanDuel promo token. So you might want to use that if you're high on Texas.
OddsShare Computer has this actually as a 5-point Ohio State win, 34-29 or thereabouts. But Josie, let's finish this thing with your game pick. I know you have that Julian Sayin under pick, but what do you like for a game pick here?
Yeah, I was trying to pick a side, but again, the more I stared at it, I really was just overthinking it. So I'm going with the under 47.5 points in this one. Again, 2 fresh quarterbacks stepping into big roles. I like Arch Manning, Julian Sayin. Don't really know too much about them. Both programs are kind of, rebuilding large parts of their offenses after losing a lot of key players. Texas, I think, has a defensive edge. You have guys like Michael Taft coming back, Anthony Hill Jr., Colin Simmons. So it's a top 5 matchup and a rematch of last year's CFP semifinal. So the hype for me is just off the charts. But I think all that excitement doesn't necessarily translate into a high-scoring game. So I think that's what people have to be careful of. Again, I think both offense are going to be finding their rhythm. And the under has hit in the last 3 meetings between these two. Putting it simple, again, 2 quarterbacks, roster overturn, only 1 defense really coming back. I really like this game staying under the total, and I think both teams are just, know that what this win is going to do for their season. So I think they're not going to want to take any crazy chances and just play some clean, simple football.